Welcome to Critical Junction, episode 65. I'm Mark.
I'm Luke.
I'm Jill.
And on Saturday, August 17th, 2019, the Satanic Temple, not to be confused with the so-called Church of Satan, founded by occasional musician and occultist Anton LaVey, held the first black mass in Canada at a heavy metal bar named the Koven in Ottawa, much to the dismay of Christian pearl clutchers everywhere. But what is a black mass, and why does the Catholic Archdiocese of Ottawa find it so offensive? If you believe the fiction portrayed throughout the history of Christian writings, a black mass involves all manner of debaucherous and blasphemous behavior, including drug-fueled orgies and sacrificing children to the devil in return for temporal power and wealth. However, if you live in reality, the modern black mass is nothing like the sensationalized versions of lore. According to Nicholas Mark, the national coordinator for the Satanic Temple in Canada, quote, essentially it involves using traditional symbols and inverting them to create a ritual that is meant to be the opposite of a traditional mass, end quote. Making use of elements such as an unbaptism and the desecration of various and sundry Christian symbols, the idea behind the Mass is one of personal liberation through the freedom afforded from blasphemy, or catharsis from shedding so-called Christian values and adopting individual freedom. But this doesn't stop Ottawa's Catholics and social conservatives from protesting the Mass and threatening the owner of the coven where it took place. The reason for their protests? They found the practice blasphemous, or in other words, they were offended by a religious practice they personally do not agree with, and which they want to see shut down, which in essence merely confirms the reason for the Satanic Temple's existence. That is, as far as I can deduce, to shine a light on the imbalance of religious freedom and tolerance by embracing iconoclastic imagery to which many would easily take offense. The Satanic Temple is a reminder to everyone that religious freedom extends to every religion, even the ones one finds personally repugnant. No faith, including and especially Christianity, deserves to enjoy special privilege over any other in a society like Canada that has enshrined the value of freedom of religion in its very fabric. Modern Satanism, as the name suggests, is a vocal rebellion against the preferential treatment evangelical Christianity tends to enjoy, and a reminder of the importance of church-state separation, especially in places like the US and parts of Canada. Hello, Alberta. Whenever a statue of the Ten Commandments is proposed for a government legislature, for example, one can expect the Satanic Temple to counter with a statue of Baphomet in protest. When a U.S. state attempts to bar same-sex marriage, one can expect the Satanic Temple to push back by arguing that doing so would constitute religious discrimination against Satanists who consider themselves married in a satanic gay wedding. The Satanic Temple does not worship the devil, and in fact should be considered more of a group of secularists and atheists who stand up against religious authoritarianism. I can't speak today for some reason.
What's the word?
Authoritarianism.
Oh, it wasn't even a new word. I thought you were saying something new. No, you just said wrong. All right, okay, go on.
But what sets the Satanic Temple apart from the Church of Satan? Are they truly unique, or are they just humanists with extra steps? Let's talk about that, shall we?
What is that alluding to? The something with extra steps?
That's just slavery with extra
steps.
steps.
Oh, that's what it was.
Rick and Morty.
Yeah.
So yes, it does seem to be like a humanist project kind of thing, an atheist humanist project that seems to embrace compassion more so than the fucking Christians, it seems.
Yeah.
I should say that.
Yeah.
I mean, as an organization. Not all Christians are bad.
Thanks for that.
All right, end of the podcast.
Thank you for that valuable insight. But yeah, one of the main things that they espouse is compassion and tolerance. You know, they're very much humanist in a way.
Yeah.
The one thing that sets them apart from humanists, according to their own writings, is the fact that I can't remember exactly how they put it. I'm just going to try to pull up the.
First of all, I'm curious why they would want to separate from humanist or being labeled humanists. What's wrong with that?
I see nothing wrong with it.
Yeah.
Okay, but what were you going to say though? Well, hurry! God damn it!
So with this solution.
Sorry, it's right here. It's in their FAQ. How are you different from humanists? And their answer: a unifying attribute of all Satanists is our embrace of our outsider status. In addition, Satanists adhere to the principles of individual sovereignty and rejection of tyrannical authority. These concerns are of paramount importance to us, but are not fundamental concepts of humanism. So they're all about. Yeah.
I was going to say that's something they can't hold on to very long. What if they become incredibly popular? Then they're suddenly not outsiders.
They're already really popular, so that outsider thing seems to be diminishing.
Yeah, diminishing kind of thing.
No, I think they still see themselves. No matter how popular it gets, they still see themselves as outsiders to the accepted kind of religions or the
like mainstream.
The
religions.
mainstream, and it's like no matter how many goths there are, there's never going to be as many goths as there were in the 90s. But even then, the goths were seen as were seeing themselves as like outsiders,
you can't really say
rebels.
Are you talking about the Visigoths or the Ostrogoths?
Yeah, I was going to say goths would over time evolve into other images and stuff like that.
The pop subculture of the
Pop
90s.
goths?
Yeah, the ones that liked.
Of which I was a proud member for the longest time.
Yeah,
was.
Yeah.
Would you still consider yourself a goth?
No, not really.
No.
I wouldn't say you're a goth.
No.
Gilles was answering for you there. How
Thanks.
do you feel about that? No! Looking you up and down.
Looking you up and down.
You're not a goth.
Nah, you're just a loser.
Well, I would suggest, though, you still
I would never...
You can still emanate a gothness in your...
What would you consider to be gothness?
Well, I mean...
As we delve even further away from Satanism.
well, I think it's like Satanism with fewer steps.
Oh.
I'm just going to say you're still kind of wearing the same clothes, that's all.
or rather Satanism light.
Satanism light. So yeah, that's the one thing that sets them apart from humanists, in their own words.
Yeah, it's their contrarianism. Or
it's the contrarianism, the iconoclastic rebellion.
Yeah, right. It's iconoclastic, so it makes sense.
That's a good word. Yeah.
It makes sense that you would use, Satan. Or say,
I mean, the word icon is right in there, so that the icon is important to them in some way. The symbology,
right?
They're
meaning to destroy,
right,
and in a sense start anew.
Yeah, like they don't use Satan as an actual, mythical figure. They use the image of Satan as a supreme rebellion, right? Mm-hmm. They're rebelling against the mainstream religions, like you said, Gilles, by throwing this iconoclastic image of Satan in everyone's faces and like rebelling hardcore against it. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, everything that they do, everything in their mission statement is extremely humanist. Yeah. They don't believe in belief that can't be demonstrated in reality, which is awesome. They have all these different campaigns to stand up for, reproductive rights and LGBTQ rights. And
I would suggest there is no reason to separate themselves from humanism. They are humanism plus.
Yeah, they're humanists with extra steps.
Yes, and they're not necessarily steps.
But
there is steps.
Figuratively speaking. Yeah, I consider myself a humanist. I'm not going to go the extra step and call myself a Satanist because I don't see the need to attach that
You're a humanist?
iconography
to
it.
Oh my God, we're fucked.
Well, it's like the person who directed that documentary that came out earlier this year called Hail Satan?
Question mark?
Yeah, question mark? I figured this is an audio format, so I could just intone the question mark.
Hail Satan?
Hail Satan?
It's almost too short to elevate your speech.
Yeah. So the director, she said that she didn't become a Satan as a result of this movie, which actually ended up very kind of fairly portraying the Satanic Temple, and is it sounds like, I haven't seen it yet, but it sounds like from what I've read about it, it really sort of promotes it in some way, but she said that she didn't come out becoming a Satanist, even though, as is clear from the movie, she clearly agrees with a lot of their philosophy and everything. But the thing about them is that the imagery of the devil and all that just doesn't mean what it does to them on that fundamental level, because like she was saying that she grew up in a totally atheistic household, or in a non-theistic household, or a religious household, and so for her, like the image of the devil, it just isn't really all that compelling to her.
Right.
It's like it doesn't scare her like it does people who are growing up in an explicitly Christian context, you know, and so that's like a totally reasonable reason to me or it's something that actually illustrates why the Satanic Temple exists, right? Yeah. Why they would take that extra step of because that symbolism actually means something to them.
No, I totally get that, and like it's effective. It's very effective, especially in the U.S. Right? Whenever evangelical Christians take a step too far against church-state separation, the Satanic Temple just throws it back at them, using the same tactics, but using Satan instead.
Right.
Well, you have to respect our beliefs too, right?
Yeah.
Because you have to.
It's like with that first Baphomet statue that they had erected. Where was it? Arkansas or something? I can't remember where it was, but they've done it in a couple places now, I think. Yeah. When they lobbied for the first one to be erected at the capital of whatever state it was in reaction to a proposed Ten Commandments monument that was going to be put up, and when they first proposed it, they were pretty explicit, arguing that they want this up, but if the state backs down on its erecting of the Ten Commandments monument, they're totally happy to back off with their request of erecting a Baphomet monument.
Right. Well, so it almost sounds like they're attempting to retain some sort of a balance, like a yin and yang thing, like.
Yeah. Well, they talk about like even the symbolism of the statue of Baphomet, where like one hand is pointing up to the sky and the other hand is pointing to the ground. So there is this kind of concept of balance between opposites and.
The real symbolism behind the up and down thing is supposed to represent as above, so below. Like one of those esoteric teachings that whatever manifests on the earth plane also manifests in the spirit realm. Like that's the mythology behind it. But I think the balancing act could be a little bit nice. More...
Like in a sense that they are one and the same.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
I like it. That kind of reminds me of like the Platonic idea of forms and how the things that we identify in the real world, there's like sort of an ideal version of it in this kind of ideal universe that's not kind of touchable,
Which I don't subscribe to at all. But
but
the idea is.
Well, I don't know. I think there's a metaphorical way that you can you can understand that concept.
Definitely not literal though.
No.
So the Church of Satan. Something else that sets them apart from the Satanic Temple is their embrace of magic and the supernatural, which the Satanic Temple just flat out rejects.
Yeah, that's it. The Satanic Temple really is like an activist organization that's about separation of church and state and First Amendment rights.
Right. Whereas the Church of Satan, LaVey set up as an actual church.
Yeah.
With him at the center, and that's another thing that they take issue with is their authoritarianism within the Church of Satan.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, the Satanic Temple, on the other hand, is more communal. They're more about being an organization and being, building community with other Satanists.
Right. Whereas the other Anton LaVey, what is it?
Anton LaVey.
Like his stuff
Church
is more so just hedonistic mockery, I guess, right?
Well,
sort of.
In a way,
it's hedonistic. And
the values,
but it's also super hypocritical. Like they claim to be like against superstition or to reject supernaturalism,
and
right? yet they're all about like superstitious rituals, and they also claim to believe in a kind of like a magical forces.
Yes,
magical forces.
See,
so they kind of think that there are forces that science, quote unquote, has not discovered yet, but they're magical forces.
You love that stuff, Mark.
Isn't that exactly what supernaturalism is?
Right.
The very definition.
It's like they're spelling out their idiocy right there.
Pretty much, yeah. But they want to have their cake and eat it too. They want to claim that they're not superstitious or supernaturalists, and yet at the same time they have all of these things for which superstition is completely fundamental to them.
LaVey borrowed a lot of his ideas about magic and superstition and all this other fun stuff heavily from Crowley.
Yeah,
I was going to say your buddy that I can't remember.
One of our previous topics that we discussed.
My boy Crowley.
Aleister Crowley, he's your boy.
He's my boy.
Right, who was a hedonist, I would suggest.
Yeah. But what,
do as thou wilt.
But yeah, what LaVey did is he took the idea of will and stripped it of all the, the self-fulfillment stuff that Crowley had built into the system and just used it as an excuse for absolute hedonism with no point behind it aside from just being hedonistic.
Right.
They also claim to be for literally evil, like greed and selfishness,
right. The seven
sins. You should wallow in greed and selfishness,
right.
and we are champions of that, which is completely antithetical to what the Satanic Temple is doing. They're a lot more. They're more explicitly about like enlightenment values and
community, it seems.
And
giving people a place
and ethics
that didn't have a place.
It
seems great.
Yeah, for another.
It's funny. One is ironic, and the other one is hypocritical.
Right.
Another entry in the Satanic Temple's FAQ: do you promote evil? The Satanic Temple holds to the basic premise that undue suffering is bad, and that which reduces suffering is good. We do not believe in symbolic evil. We embrace blasphemy as a legitimate expression of personal independence from counterproductive traditional norms.
Iconoclastic.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
That's
great.
good.
It's great. You guys are great.
I don't object to anything that they're doing, aside from,
Aside from not personally needing to associate with the symbolism of the devil.
Yeah.
Well, it seems to be providing a place and a voice for those that were struggling to find something of any depth within the community,
Right. They provide that kind of framework because they have actual, congregations, and they have mass, and they have meetings and community events, right? So anyone seeking that kind of fulfillment that they otherwise wouldn't get after having left, let's say, the Catholic Church or whatever, can find that within the Satanic Temple. Personally, speaking for myself, I don't see the need for it. Like, I just do not have that need, which is why I don't associate with any kind of organized religion, even one as atheistic as the Satanic Temple. Like, I don't need that aspect in my life. But for anyone who does, this is a good outlet for them, right? They promote really good humanistic ideas.
But they're also not a church in even the way that the Church of Satan is.
Right,
They don't have gatherings. They don't... they'll do those kind of activist events like a Black Mass.
But they have,
but they don't have
they have weekly. They have weekly gatherings.
Like a church? Oh, okay.
Oh yeah.
So that wasn't what I understood from what I was hearing from.
Can we say that it is becoming more popular? Like it was a success. This mass in Ottawa was successful.
I think it was successful by virtue of the fact that the Catholic Archdiocese wanted to protest it. I think the more someone wants to protest what you're doing, the higher your success rate. Especially if you're the Satanic Temple, they're big in the media these days.
Well, I'm gonna say
one of their first big protests was to protest the Westboro Baptist Church.
Oh, right, yeah.
And what they did, they basically turned around on the Westboro Baptist Church, a thing that they do where they will post-mortem, they will baptize someone in absentia.
Yeah.
Regardless of what their that dead person's convictions were in life, they'll just take it upon themselves to baptize them in some kind of ceremony. So what the Satanic Temple did is they held an event where they went to the grave of the mother of Fred Phelps, the guy who runs the Westboro Baptist Church, the guy, the head of it, the cult.
Satan himself. Go on. Yes.
Pretty much, yeah. And so what they did is they held a ceremony where they declared her a homosexual after her death. In death, we have a ceremony where, and so they Yeah. So they had some kind of ceremony at her grave where they declared her to be a homosexual, and they had some kind of ceremony where they had two people making out. One guy very ceremoniously deposited his testicles on the gravestone of the mother, and
he teabagged the gravestone.
And they were able to argue that this was all a First Amendment right that they were exercising as part of their religion.
And they were not wrong.
And it really pissed off this Fred Phelps guy. But the whole point of it was to highlight that idea that that these things that Fred Phelps does, it's basically to test the other side of the coin on the limits that Fred Phelps pushes with his privilege, since he's like a Christian cult of some kind. So yeah. Anyway,
I love it. I love everything about it. Like there's a great need for this particular organization, especially in the U.S. Here, I wouldn't say as much. Like there are pockets in Canada that I think would stand, a good Satanic Temple dousing every now and then. But in the U.S. especially, it's really, really important for this type of organization to exist, right? Because evangelical Christianity is just so pervasive.
Yeah, they're basically just like a kind of ACLU specifically for church-state separation.
Exactly. On the other hand, I wonder if there might be a negative aspect to it, because they are atheists for the most part. They're secularists.
Yeah.
But atheists in the U.S., again, are already maligned enough without having that extra baggage of Satanism attached to them.
Sure, except I like the idea of them trying to make concrete the idea that a religion doesn't require belief in Jesus or God or a deity at all. type of supernaturalism,
right?
Which is often kind of forgotten or lost in the fog in the States. And there are other religions like parts of Buddhism. I know there are parts of Buddhism that actually do kind of imagine a supernatural aspect to it, but a big chunk of Buddhism is practiced by people who are atheists.
Right. We can say that the first guy deemed Buddha was actually very against it.
Right.
He did not like that stuff, and he would never talk about like the afterlife and bullshit like that kind of thing. He was adamantly against any superstition,
right?
Sort of thing.
On the other hand, there are quote unquote theistic Satanists who do believe in a literal devil.
Within this current organization that we're talking
about?
Not
in the... I don't think so. Not within the
temple, because one of their main tenets is that they just don't believe in that. But
I mean, the Church of Satan says that too, yet it wouldn't surprise me if some of the adherents, the way they interpret it is that they actually do have a literal belief in a Satan or whatever.
Like, I knew a couple of Satanists.
Even though LaVey himself would say they don't believe literally.
Well, he seemed more like
he's a liar. He's a shyster.
Yeah, LaVey was a shyster. The main reason for setting up the Church of Satan was so he can bring in a buttload of money for his family.
Right, and
that was self-admitted, and it worked because I think his daughter or his granddaughter or something is still enjoying the benefits of it.
Mormonism was already taken, so he's
Mormonism was taken. Scientology was just on the way, So
guess I'll go Satan then. I guess.
Yeah, what's left? Satan. Okay, let's do it.
This Lucien Greaves guy, who's basically like the de facto spokesperson now for the Satanic Temple in the States.
I know nothing about him.
He seems kind of like the polar opposite of Anton LaVey. So so both in the organization and in the spokespeople or the faces of these movements, there's like a perfect kind of demarcation of the difference between the two, and he seems just like a really smart guy. He studied neuroscience and false memory at Harvard, and he got a degree from Harvard.
Cool.
And he it's funny. He really looks the part of a leader of a satanic church because his eye is scarred. So it's like his iris and
So
everything
he's
is
cool looking.
His iris is all like milky white, and I think maybe part of his face is scarred or something. But
looks like a badass.
He looks like a Bond villain. But he when he's talking about this stuff, he's definitely
More articulate than you?
more articulate than me. But an idealist in the same vein as some of these other people in the new atheist movement that are promoting enlightenment values and ethics and stuff like that. And
Can I ask what that means? What do you
when I say enlightenment values?
Enlightenment values, yeah. What are you suggesting there? What do you?
Science
part of
and
it,
reason.
science and reason,
Okay.
but also within limits, individualism, which is kind of falling out of favor with
Church-state separation was another big one.
Church-state separation and First Amendment rights, and but these constitutional rights in the states are directly directly arising out of Enlightenment principles of freedom of expression or freedom of conscience and things like that.
Right.
Cool. Immediately, I think of that Jean Baudrillard, the idea of the simulacrum, is that what it's called? The idea that reality distorts and eventually it becomes unrecognizable. The idea that, like, what happened to Christianity that it became Satanism, and Satanism somehow became more like Christianity was supposed to be. Like, it's really, it's pretty funny.
That's a really good question.
Like, everything became its opposite, you know?
That is a really great question. At what point did these two things flip, right?
Yeah.
Because, like, modern day Christianity is fucking evil if you think about it. Right?
Yeah. Like, what the fuck?
Some of the adherents of it,
Raping and molesting
like
kids.
How can you misunderstand a message so large? You know,
justice.
I guess the truth is, it just gradually devolves in a sense. You know, one thing evolves and another one devolves.
So, do you think, let's say 2,000 years from now, if the Satanic Temple still exists, will things have reverted back to?
Well, yeah, of course. I'm gonna turn to things like Taoism and the yin yang thing. Yes, everything eventually becomes its opposite, sort of thing. Like, eventually everything is ruined. That's what it comes down to. You got to go with the other thing. Yeah?
Eventually, everything is ruined.
Yeah, you can quote me on that one.
I think I just did. But I knew some theistic Satanists, and they were out to lunch.
Yeah,
they were just nuts.
Well, hold on. We can't say that they're the fair representatives.
No, definitely
they
not.
may have just been nuts.
But it may have been, I don't know if it was just a small sample size, but every one of the theistic Satanists I had come across were all of the same mindset. They all had the same kind of behavior. They were all really adamant in the existence of a literal Satan to which they prayed and did rituals and offerings and things. And it was just... that tainted my first, I guess, idea of Satanism when I first came across it.
Right.
And when I saw that the Satanic Temple was just on the uprise, I'm like, oh, fuck. Right? Are we going to have more of these idiots running around preaching bullshit?
Right, and then we see that it is something very different.
Yeah, it's
very different.
It's very different. Like, I have mad respect for what the Satanic Temple is doing.
Yeah.
Like, their humanistic ideals and their just what they do. And the way they go about doing it. Their inclusivity, their individuality, just everything they're doing is really, really cool. But the Catholics are just going to protest it because it has the word Satan in it.
Yeah, no, you're right. And that's all it is.
Yeah.
Like, they have no idea that...
Well, not even mostly the Catholics. It's more...
Sorry,
I think the Protestants in the States
Sure.
are the bigger opponent.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, well, that's a podcast. All right.
Yeah, no, I applaud them for what they're doing. That, like, there's a need for them. Maybe not here, like I said. I don't know. Do you guys think there's a need for them let's start in Ottawa.
Well,
Canada,
right away I have a
in
problem with the
Ottawa?
word need, but there's no need for anything.
Well,
we don't
no,
have to
they,
exist.
They arose out of necessity as a because of the backlash.
I'm going to say
A
it's a
reaction
natural
to
reaction.
Christianity.
Yes. Yeah.
To something untenable.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't think we really have that kind of thing in Ottawa, aside from maybe really annoying forced birthers on street corners, or
Thank you for calling them that. That's excellent.
or harassing people around
Abortion clinics.
abortion clinics. Or,
Right. You
Things like
immediately recognize the lack of compassion in this action, whereas they're trying to be representatives of compassion. Like
Right.
you're immediately an idiot. Like it just doesn't seem to make sense.
You know,
they're trying to be representatives of an idol, which they've made of God and his incarnation as Jesus, but they are not at all representatives of the values that those were supposedly trying to bring to humanity, like compassion and love.
Do you guys remember in the late 90s, early 2000s,
I'm going to start with no.
the Fire of God church people on Rito Street?
Yes.
They were there
right.
every Saturday, every Sunday, I think.
Yeah.
They were just in your face. They had the
Yeah,
signs.
aggressive.
They were aggressive.
Like, I'm going to beat you with Jesus.
Yeah, I will whack this Jesus sign across your face, kind of.
I'm not going to listen to you. I'm just going to fucking kill you with the cross.
Yeah.
I was a bit young, and I wasn't really I wasn't really focused on that kind of thing at that age.
I wasn't either, but I watched them for the pure spectacle of it.
Well, and they would, in a sense, try to build a spectacle of it.
Oh yeah,
A
speckled
spectacle.
spectacle.
And you'd sit and watch it and then go, oh my god, this is enraging eventually. You know what I mean? Like,
I don't. Whatever happened to them? They eventually just stopped showing up.
I guess so. They lost
I guess the
faith.
Westboro Baptist Church and the States stole their thunder, and
They stole their thunder.
They just
they
became
were like,
Scientologists.
"Oh fuck, these guys."
The
are doing
Scientologists
it."
scooped them up and got now they've just run out of money and can't afford to put on their little displays.
We've been rendered redundant.
Nice. They've got the pink slips in the mail. So yeah, I don't know if there's necessarily a need for them in Ottawa. Like I said in the intro.
Maybe in Western Canada though,
Yes.
because
Yes.
Well, you know what? I
in
don't,
Alberta it's getting pretty strong.
Getting.
I don't think we should think in terms of need here. In a sense, Ottawa is a great place for them to possibly thrive a little bit. They can grow. They can evolve here because it's going to be safe. They're not going to get into too much trouble, really. You know.
That's a good point.
Here is a good place to do it.
It's a good safe nest for them.
Like in a sense, the majority will get it, kind of thing.
Right.
You know.
Right.
Maybe I'm wrong there, but
They can meet unhindered in a lot of cases.
yeah.
Right?
Like I'm curious to see how it's going to evolve, whether interest will be gained or lost in the evolution of its organization and stuff like that. Like so far, it seems great, and
It all depends on their PR person, right? Like if they
Yeah.
want to market this thing, they need a good spokesperson.
well, so
Yeah,
far so
and
good.
it doesn't seem evident that everywhere can find Lucian Greaves, who's an articulate Harvard grad. Who's,
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I can't believe that this was the first Black Mass in Canada.
It was.
I don't really understand that.
I don't either.
Yeah, isn't that weird?
It's
Yeah,
very
that's
weird.
super weird. I mean, what the hell?
Well, maybe like officially sanctioned Black Mass.
it's up there
I'm
with-
sure, I'm sure,
Or
I'm sure some
or
dude
media
put one on.
notified.
Yeah. The first one that a press release went out for.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, could there not have been some sort of underground?
Oh, I'm sure there were.
Right.
Like
So this is
other
the
masses.
first. This is the first publicly,
Yeah. Public.
The
Black
first kind of
It's
the
the one
first
that
kind
gets
of
the credit for
activist
it.
event. Yeah.
Mass. Yeah.
which is great,
Right.
and it got a lot of attention.
It
seems.
sure did. I
And
mean,
you
the
know what?
owner of the Koven got death threats for allowing this to go on, for one thing.
They're gonna. Honestly, the guy was probably getting death threats for just having a heavy metal bar. People are ridiculous.
One called the
people,
Coven,
People
yeah.
that are giving death threats obviously have problems. You know?
That's
Gone,
the one
they've
thing
gone
that
to the
that
wrong
this
church.
Lucian
It
Greaves
seems,
guy.
you know?
That's our next T-shirt, by the way.
What is
People who make death threats have problems. It's true. I mean, it's not just the regular Joe who's going to go out and threaten the owner of a metal bar.
Yeah. Like, what's wrong with these people? You know, why are you threatening people's lives? You know,
Seriously,
that's a little fucked up.
Is it because of the skulls on the door? Like, I don't know.
Yeah,
Are there skulls? I haven't been yet.
I haven't been either.
Well, I mean, okay, so let's think about the broader idea of Satanism.
Don't tell me what to think about.
Yeah, you can't tell us what to think.
Let's talk about it.
Okay.
Let's talk about the broader idea of Satanism in society or in culture, where, at least online, I see that there's sort of a big surge of like naive credulity and moral panic about the stereotypical sort of mythical idea of a Satanist who is actually about eating babies.
So there's a resurgence of satanic panic.
Yeah, there's a resurgence of satanic panic right now, I think, with all this stuff about how like the Clintons and their pizza shop with the basement room where they eat babies and this kind of...
First of all, hey, what's wrong with eating babies? Why isn't there, like, why isn't that one of the dishes at McDick's kind of thing? You know, I could use a baby burger.
What?
I've gone on the wrong direction. Go. Sorry. Sorry, guys.
I'm going to ignore that. So, like, all of these documentaries on Satanism, on either the Satanic Temple or the Church of Satan, or like on YouTube, there's a bunch of documentaries on this stuff that you can look at. Right? Like,
Are there ever?
The History Channel documentaries on Satan and all this kind of stuff. And inevitably, among the top comments under the YouTube videos are highly upvoted comments of credulous cretins who are actually saying, "Hey, stop normalizing this stuff," and there are actually and these Satanists actually are lying, and they do believe in eating babies.
I love how people
they literally think that Satanists are about eating babies.
I love how people that are wrong also try to impose their wrongness on other people as if they understand what the other person is doing. When
Well, see, like...
I was trying to get something funny there. How wrong people go on to be
that's
more wrong.
The thing is, it's less funny than it is true.
Yeah.
So I was just totally on board with that comment, and it's a fucking downer.
Yeah. Right.
And it reminded me of something I just heard recently. It might have been on the Atheist Experience, but the question was, what does it feel like to be wrong? Not to discover that you're wrong, but what does it feel like
to be wrong?
To be wrong.
Right.
Well,
yeah, it feels like being right.
It feels exactly like being right. You know?
That's the
what do you
punchline.
mean? I don't understand.
When you're wrong without realizing that you're wrong. Okay. When you're wrong, what does it feel like to be wrong? It feels like when you're right.
Okay, yes,
you
of
know,
course.
because you just
don't
know that you're not right.
I'm not sure if that's the case because I've never been wrong. No, but I don't know if that's true. I don't know.
Again, we're not talking about the discovery of being wrong. It's the within the moment you're wrong, but you don't know it, but you believe that you're right.
Yes, but
it feels
I
exactly
guess,
like being right.
I guess yes, it can. I'm not sure though. To tell you the truth, I think.
To me, for that to not be true, it requires some kind of supernaturalism where there's something in the universe that reveals knowledge to you that you're actually right versus an absence of that supernatural revelation.
Revealed knowledge.
Let's just
when you're just wrong about something.
I think that there are elements of the psyche that are in a sense smarter than we know we are in a sense. So I think that oftentimes when you're wrong, unless you're prepared to admit that you're wrong, there's an element of holding on to something and a not goodness, you know? Like, when you're wrong, I think that there can be an element of knowing it and not being able to admit it. Like, what I'm saying is...
you imagine that there's like sort of a convenient element of guilt or something that's being
I think
sort of hidden or underplayed by the purveyor of wrongness.
Well, I think that when someone is stating something that is incorrect, but they feel it is incorrect, there is a discomfort in it. There is often a
When
discomfort
they know
in it.
that they're incorrect.
Only when they're you're talking about lying rather than just being wrong, though.
No,
Yeah,
what
I
I'm
guess that's the
saying is
definition of
what I'm
lying.
saying is that what they encounter from the world does not leave them in comfort necessarily.
Right, but
And I'm not-
uncomfortable truths are a thing too, right?
Oh, sure. Yeah. You're right.
So
So they feel
the discomfort isn't necessarily an indication of the truth or falsity of it.
No, you're right. I'm saying that they can come hand in hand. I guess, like, let's look at an easy way to look at something like this would be just looking back in terms of our view of science in the past and how the world felt about things, right? When they were wrong. You know?
To them, it felt exactly like being right. Like,
Yeah.
Those who argued that the Earth was the center of the universe, they were wrong, but for all intents and purposes, what they felt was the exact same feeling as being right about it.
I guess maybe I'm talking about the communication of it, because upon the communication of something that is wrong, in exposing it to the world, it's not as easily done anymore. You can't be wrong without encountering.
Oh,
Do you know what I'm saying?
I couldn't disagree with you more.
Ooh, this is getting good.
Yeah.
I feel like today,
I was wrong.
you're just saying that because I responded with so much conviction in my non-verbal language.
Well, and because I know you and I know you're smart, and I'm in a sense I go, Gilles trumps me.
That's totally wrong. That's totally false.
See, again, wrong.
I just keep pointing out how you're wrong. No, I was going to say that with like social media, you can dissimulate or dispense fallacy and complete falsehoods like never before, and you can give them a platform and make more people believe them than ever before. You
sure,
know? There's so many people that have a bias. And that want to believe a false thing that is convenient to their bias.
Prime example would be anti-vaxxers.
Well, I'm just going to say...
Anti-vaxxers,
I
flat
guess
earthers.
What I'm getting at is
Russian apologists, Putinists.
what I'm saying is that I think in today's day and age, it is accompanied with a discomfort. Even if you find your cluster of fucks that agree with you, there's going to be
Cluster of fucks.
there's going
That's
to
another
be
t-shirt.
Cluster of fucks.
there's going to be a discomfort in it as well, right? It's only with truth that you can really find an inner peace and that remains.
I don't know about that.
Yeah, I don't know about that either.
But I mean,
fuck,
that
it's
sounds a
great
lot.
that they
That sounds a lot like the idea of karma too, right? Like like bad things will be rebuffed in the grand scheme of things.
Well, and I would suggest...
And the righteous will be rewarded in the grand scheme of things.
I'm going to suggest...
Which is completely fucking false. Right?
I'm going to
we all
suggest...
know that the most rewarded in life, the most famously rewarded, that we can point to all of those people that are like ultra rich or whatever. A lot of them get there specifically because they violate every kind of ethical principle that there possibly is.
The unscrupulously rich.
I'm talking about the health of the psyche, like the inner peace. And what I'm getting at is that they are more likely to not have an inner peace. Like their psyche is...
And I think we're a lot more adept at being lazily convenient with our brains and compartmentalization and all this stuff than that idea gives credit for. That your idea has sort of kind of a benevolent idea that people who do wrong will feel guilty about it, and that's
simply false.
Like a glimmer of solace that we can take in the fact that even though they're reaping all of the rewards of their treachery and cheating and abuse, they will still be guilty about it, or in some sense feel uncomfortable about it.
Which is false.
Which I just don't see.
I guess I do see
There are
it.
plenty of people who are just unscrupulous and don't give a shit.
I
The
understand
psychopaths,
that. I'm not
the
talking
psychopaths
about...
in the world, by definition, will make use of all of those tools, and yet at the same time feel no kind of remorse or.
It isn't even necessarily psychopaths.
And not even necessarily.
I'm not necessarily talking about remorse or anything like that. And you're right. Maybe it is more numb than that. That there is no negative feeling. But that numbness.
What about glee or
just reveling in
victory?
Right.
You know, like that's like a
yes, but you're
an
talking
orgasmic
about,
kind of fucking positive feeling.
I'm
right?
talking about the overall health of the psyche, I guess, is what I'm talking about. You know,
Yeah.
like I'm taking someone like Hitler and I'm going, he did not die happy. Dude commits suicide. You know, like.
Yeah.
It eventually catches up with you, is what I'm saying. The world will not, in its design, does not, in a sense, let you really get away with things, ultimately. You eventually...
I don't see that as true.
And I'm saying
way too many people like Hitler actually do end up dying peacefully in their sleep of old age. You know, like for every Hitler, there's 1,000 other evil fucks that weren't as famous.
But I guess what I'm saying is I'm not talking about how they appear to be. I'm talking about their internal struggle that may not be revealed. And I guess this is nothing I can
Sure,
prove.
but I'm not even convinced that something like Hitler's suicide is indicative of
his unhappiness,
of any kind of unhappiness or despair. He's just going to deny the
wanna...
wrong people their idea of justice.
Yeah,
right?
he didn't want to surrender.
I'm not surrendering to these fucks. I know I've been right all along in my mission, and I'm just gonna out myself right now of this whole.
They'll never take me alive. Blam.
Yeah, they'll never take me
simple as
alive.
that.
Fuck you is his last thought. Not woe is me.
Yeah, or a sense of guilt.
I'm not talking about woe is me. I'm talking about the psyche saying fuck you, and that itself is evidence.
Even still, I don't think that's necessarily true with the case of Hitler.
No,
right?
you're right. I'm not saying it's necessarily true. I'm saying that I don't
Then
know
what are
the
you
fuck
saying?
I'm saying. But sure, that was fun, eh, guys? Hey?
Yeah, no, I mean you're advancing the idea of karma,
which is bullshit.
It's bullshit, but it's a very well populated
yes
movement, or not movement.
It's especially popular in New Age circles and
no,
like.
I mean I wouldn't even I wouldn't even pigeonhole it.
I'm not pigeonholing. I'm just saying it's especially true with.
I think I felt that there was karma in the world up until not all that long ago. You know, like.
Yeah, like
and I don't know that I'm cynical actually either for rejecting it now. I just think that we have to rely more on reason and objectivity than we thought we could before.
Yeah, like there's without any evidence for some kind of arbiter of cosmic justice and someone who doles out karma to those who deserve it and punishment for those who don't. You know, all we have to rely on are reason and logic and rationality in order to make the world a decent
but that can
place.
be taken too far. I feel like you uphold those ideals in a different way than I do too.
Mm-hmm.
Like I feel like I'm almost like at some point in between you and Luke on those kind of.
Yeah. I'm admittedly half Vulcan, so...
Right.
May I suggest it then in terms of, how was I going to phrase it here? That someone that lives in lie encounters more walls that are troubling.
I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't. I think
No.
I think that I think people can train themselves.
To live in a box of walls and in a sense find a satisfaction there.
I think they can train themselves to live in an ultimate freedom from any objective notion of righteousness.
If you want a prime example of that,
sure,
if you want like a prime,
it's not like they're trapping themselves, where like goodness is everything around them, and they put walls around, and they're like, no, I'm going to live in my fortress of deception and selfishness, and no. They see the fortress or the prison as the naive little world of people who actually, some people consider Nietzsche to characterize any idea of moral goodness or whatever, or adherence to it as sort of naive and limiting and pathetic. You know what I mean? Like,
right. Like the
they
idea
consider
of
themselves to
being
be
warped by
free
the
of
Nazis
that.
and- yes, yeah.
Those are the prisons. They're above it.
Crowley
And
was like that.
There's way too much of.
Crowley positioned himself above quote unquote ordinary morality. So like, yeah, he placed himself above that kind of thing, just like what you were saying, right? He's a good example of that type of thinking. Well, let's try to wrap this up because my allergies are killing me and I don't know what's happening, but I'm dying.
Okay.
Ugh.
Must be the Satanists.
Must be the Satanists. They've cast some kind of hex on me.
Maybe it's God. Maybe Satan has tricked God into testing you, just like with
Obviously,
Job.
that's what it is.
Am I Job?
You're fucking Job right now.
Nice.
Why?
Isn't that amazing that Satan could
what
actually
kind of card?
use God
He
that
tricked
way?
God. Like,
That's fucking awesome.
because God is all-knowing, and yet somehow he was himself deceived by Satan. Like,
Satan just managed to fucking play God and just totally abuse one of God's creatures. And
there's
then
this
just
huge
laugh.
misunderstanding within Christianity about the character of Satan in the Bible, because Satan translated just means adversary, right? He was an angel at the right hand of God at one point.
In that whole Job thing, he's actually one of the angels.
He's one of the angels.
He's not like the devil that we know post Milton.
No, he was a Satan, an adversary sent by God to test
Are you
Job.
annoyed?
Why were you sorry? You looked at me and said sorry. Why?
You looked annoyed. You had an annoyed expression on your face.
Oh yeah.
It
must be Mark's
like
fault.
we abandoned a train that we should.
No.
Okay.
I have no idea what I was thinking, but sorry if I looked annoyed.
Yeah,
Fuck you for thinking so.
the Satan that tested Job was an adversary, an angel sent by God to make Job's life miserable for a little while in order to test his faith, right? The Satan who tested or tempted Jesus in the desert may have been the same angel, may have been another one. Yeah. It was another Satan, another adversary sent to test him, right?
May have been Jesus' psyche.
Probably. If there was a historical Jesus, and B, if that story is accurate, could have been his psyche just messing with him because he's in the fucking desert, right?
Yeah.
The sun beating down in his head for 40 days.
You're gonna be like facing yourself. You know.
Who else are you gonna face?
Yeah, exactly.
You're in the fucking desert.
Yeah.
Walkabout. Jesus' walkabout.
So yeah, final thoughts on Satanism in general, Satanic Temple in particular.
Well, I'm going to say I'm curious to see how and if it develops and grows and how it flourishes. And
How long have they
guess
been
I'm
around?
looking forward to see it.
Does anyone know how long they've been around?
Are we talking about like the Ottawa crew?
No,
the
the
Satanic
organization.
Temple I think has only been around since like the late 80s or early.
Is it that long?
Because I think it's only existed as like a reaction to the Satanic panic of the 80s. So its members or its founding members are reacting to the Satanic panic of the 80s. So it's definitely not before then.
Yeah,
the Church of Satan dates
they've
from
been around
from
since, like,
the
the
60s.
Yeah.
From the early 60s.
May I share the beer with you, Joe?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Does that make sense?
Well, I mean, you could have another one. Or...
Well, I don't think we have time for another one. We're almost finished the podcast and stuff like that.
But
and
go
generally,
ahead.
we just fucking jet after we're done the podcast.
I'm happy for you to share in my beverage.
Does that make sense?
Your,
you don't mind
your
my
final thought there with the beer?
Yeah, do you mind if I grab some of your beer there? That's my final thought on Satanism.
Do as thou wilt!
No, I don't know what the fuck.
So you were saying it'll be interesting to see how they thrive.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
Should we? Do you guys want to go and check them out? Like, should we go check out like a mass?
But is there a place we can go to check it out?
All right, like an audience.
I thought
you
it was
guys are
basically
real
like
fucking attractive.
a Facebook group that said, "Hey, we're having this event at this place."
They don't. I don't know if they have a headquarters, but they have a Facebook group page, whatever. But they do hold their. I don't know if they're doing another one, but if they do, yeah, sure.
Would you be? Yeah, I feel
So
like Mark. I feel like you're
interested.
interested.
I would
Like,
definitely be interested.
I think even like in a sense you might be interested in the community. Like
I mean, I'm sure I can relate to a lot of people.
they seem to be very attractive.
This is undoubtedly true. I could have a lot of fun.
Do they?
Well,
I didn't see any images.
I'm just judging by what we've seen in the media, and yes, people are attractive.
I don't disagree with that assessment.
It is true.
Yes.
Mark is now great. I've reduced it to like Mark wanting to go bone some
objectifying
statements.
people.
No,
I'm sure
that's
they'd
terrible.
be
I'm
into
sorry.
it too.
I'm sorry.
They would be into it because they're all about the hedonism. So.
Oh really? Yeah. You're telling them that?
I'm yes.
You need to be into it because you're into hedonism.
They have to be. That's the only option.
No, they're Satanic Temple, not Church of Satan.
Oh shit! You're right. Sorry.
These are people with actual principles
And values.
Yeah, they're not gonna like you, Mark.
Who does? Nobody likes Millhouse.
Oh god.
What's your final thought there, Jill?
Oh, me?
Yeah, I guess.
This guy.
What's my hot take?
What's your... Yes, what is your hot take on
What is my hot take on Satanism?
Well, not Satanism.
I think...
Are we not talking about the particular group in Ottawa kind of thing?
Talking about both.
Or like the...
on the Satanic Temple?
Right, the Satanic Temple, yes.
Where have you been for the last hour?
I guess we've been focusing mostly on the Satanic Temple, but I wasn't sure if the episode was...
Sorry, guys, I was having an out-of-body experience all this time.
About that.
What were you guys talking about?
What?
What?
No. Wait, am I still expected to come up with a hot take?
No, that's your time.
Your take's pretty warm so far. Not hot.
I'm like this Penny Lane director of the Hail Satan movie where I really dig everything that they're doing, but I see the symbolism of Satan himself or itself and of I guess traditional conceptions of evil as completely superfluous to the overall sort of I don't know philosophy.
I'm in the same camp, and I guess I'll make this my final thought. But like, I agree with the things they're doing. I agree with their values and principles and ideals. I just don't see the necessity personally for the Satan iconography. So I'll just continue calling myself a secular humanist.
I think that I can understand it.
Oh, I understand it, but I'm just saying, for me personally, I don't need to attach that.
There's no need.
Let's just, that's what I'm saying. I don't need it, so there is no need. So I don't see the appeal. I don't see the necessity. I don't see the reason for attaching any kind of...
Do we not see the iconoclastic nature of...
Yeah, I see it, but I'm just speaking from my own personal perspective. Like, for my personal fulfillment or whatever, I just don't have that desire to attach the same
I think
iconography
that
to it.
idea that the ironic interventions of the Satanic Temple that we talked about earlier, like putting up a Baphomet statue in reaction to the fact that the state wanted to put up a Ten Commandments monument, right? I think that whole project or that whole point, that whole testing of the legal system could be achieved with an utterly secular kind of idea. Like we could put up a monument of
Carl Sagan, for example, or something.
of Carl Sagan or of a magnifying glass or something.
Sure. But I feel like it's in a sense it's almost like the test. Like, can you understand this? No, then go away.
Yeah.
You know, if you can't just grasp the simple concept that we're using the image of Satan to conjure up something else.
And part of what
So it's like a test of intelligence, you know what I mean?
And
then
part
get the
of
fuck out of
their,
here, you know what I mean?
Their
You're not going to be part of our gang. That's super cool, you know?
yeah.
But compassion to you. Hope you have a great life.
Yeah. Well, as one final thing, I love the way that they on their FAQ page, the last item on it is the question is, I'm offended, and their response is, please go somewhere else.
Yeah, I find it very
That's cute.
attractive.
Cute.
They're very attractive.
That's cute, Jonathan.
It's cute.
That's really cute, Jonathan. That's cute.
Are you quoting Highway to Heaven?
I'm quoting Highway to Heaven. Everything is fucking cute in that show. It's great.
Bravo.
I ended the episode on Satanism with a quote from Highway to Heaven.
This has been Critical Junction, episode 65. I'm Lucifer.
I am also Lucifer.
And I'm Baphomet.
As always, thanks for listening, and until next time, keep thinking critically.